This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today's Thursday, February 27th of 2025. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. Today's episode, Dustin Huffman talks with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst about the USDA's response to the current HPAI outbreak that's been hitting really across the entire United States. We'll also have a check of the closing markets with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. But first up, here's that discussion that Dustin had with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst.
We got a lot of things to talk about with HPAI. Senator, first of all, thanks so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
It is always great to be with you, Dustin. Thanks so much.
All right, so we're talking HPAI, and that's something we've been battling for years. I mean, go all the way back to 2015, but then we had a little bit of a break. But it's been something that's been rearing its ugly head a lot here in the last couple of years. And I know the government's been looking at ways to try to help mitigate the problems we've been having. And we got some big announcements just yesterday, Senator. If you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on with that.
Yes, absolutely. So Secretary Rawlins, our brand new United States Department of Agriculture secretary, man, she was thrown right into the fire with the HPAI spread. So she came out with a plan from USDA yesterday and outlined a number of ideas, a path forward, including higher indemnity payments for our producers, producing vaccinations that will hopefully prevent the spread and development of other variants of the virus. And then, of course, increased biosecurity measures. And all of those things were things that I had also suggested in a bipartisan letter that I had sent to the secretary with the assistance of my Democratic colleague, John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. So it's wonderful to work with Secretary Rawlins. She is a go-getter and she gets this. We've talked about the agricultural issues, especially as it pertains to HPAI, a number of other issues that she's going to be challenged with in the early parts of this term. But again, I'm glad to see that she's rolling this out so quickly and actively engaged with our producers.
Now, talking about a few of those parts that you were talking about, the larger indemnity payments, first of all, let's talk about that. What was the situation we had and why was it important that we address that part of it?
Well, we have seen in years past, especially as we came through 2015, it was very hard. Indemnity, of course, we hadn't done this for a very long time. And so we have seen payments that were too low, and then we saw them go too high, and then we brought it back to the middle. I mean, it's been back and forth. And we just have to make sure that it is right for our producers. And as we work through this, this certainly, it didn't directly impact turkeys this time as far as some of the plans that Secretary Rawlins had laid out. But, there are different payments, whether it's a laying hen or a broiler or turkey, all of those different things. So we're going to have to work through this as we move forward. But I do think we're on a great path for our producers, and we can adjust as necessary. But again, I'm glad to see that Secretary Rawlins is really jumping in. She's going knee deep in this already, and we're just really thankful that she's so actively engaged and especially responsive to those of us here in Congress.
Now, talking about the biosecurity part of it as well, we know that here in Iowa, the IDALS has been really top of the line on making sure everything is not spreading and that everything is being taken care of. I mean, is this something that we're trying to push towards a national level, or has it been state by state, or is it more of a USDA really just toughening up those guidances? Where are we finding ourselves there?
Yeah, I think it's guidance, and obviously our states will have their input as well. But what we want to do is make sure that the best techniques are utilized out there. And it's tough because we see even in facilities that have the best biosecurity, it still can find a way. So we've got to figure out how it's spreading, how it's being transmitted, and do absolutely the best we can in making sure that the facilities are safe. Part of the problem, though, is that we do have backyard flocks that are being impacted. So smaller farms that have free range chickens out there. I think about my dad and my stepmom, and their chickens just run everywhere. And of course, when you have geese that fly overhead and they're leaving their droppings behind, it's being transmitted in so many different ways. A big concern is that transmission is now happening not just within the buildings of some of these facilities, but then we also see a spread now to dairy herds and transmission to people. So we've got to figure this out, and we have to make sure that there's research behind it and proper science to help inhibit that spread. So a lot yet to do, Dustin, but this is the start of a good plan forward to combat HPAI.
Thanks again to Dustin for providing us that conversation with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst today. You can find that full conversation on our website at iowaagnet.com. We'll take a look at the closing markets next, but first, here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we're talking now with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. Sam, what do we see going on with the grains today, especially with having both the export sales and the USDA outlook for them?
It was a brutal day in the corn market and wheat market for sure. Soybeans started off strong, but eventually did come back down. With, as you mentioned, the corn acres seen at 94 million in the outlook meetings this morning. And then export sales were pretty poor for the corn market. Now on the soybean side of things, we traded higher for a good portion of the day on 84 million acres in that outlook forum, and export sales that came in within expectations. I would like to note, though, that these numbers that we're trading, they came in within expectations as far as the acres are concerned. But the big story is not going to be until March when we see the actual surveyed results from producers across the country. These acres numbers that we're looking at right now are just economists that are putting together their best estimate on acres at this point. So we'll get a much better handle on things once we get to the end of March and see actual surveyed results from producers across the country.
And then, of course, with the numbers reacting pretty harshly today, down pretty decent in the corn and wheat, like you mentioned. I know there's not been a lot of flash sales recently, and I think tomorrow will mark 2 weeks of not having flash export sales. Are they reacting a little bit, kind of extra to that?
I think that certainly has something to do with it. Yeah. Ethanol stocks yesterday were seen very high. So maybe a little bit less demand for corn via ethanol, and two, with export sales as well being fairly non-existent here as of late. It's definitely probably hurt things this week. I think the bigger story this week, though, is you've got end of the month and March futures going into delivery, and just a lot of things happening here, all coming together here at the end of February. So with the funds being as long as they were, I think they saw this as a good opportunity to take some profits, and we definitely saw quite a bit of selling from them. It'll be interesting to see where their position sits after this week's data is taken into account.
And then, Sam, looking at the livestock side of things, I know cattle did all right today, but hogs are limit down, I think, at the end of the trading day.
It was a brutal day in the hog market. Absolutely. Yeah. Down 370 in the hogs. And yeah, it's seen as pretty negative there. However, on the other side of the livestock markets, the cattle were quite a bit higher today. But yeah, with the hogs down so hard, feels like the funds were slipping out of their long position. They're holding a long position in hogs right now. So saw some pretty aggressive fund selling there, getting out of that position, and it resulted in a pretty bloody day in the hog markets.
All right, Sam, lots of great information today. For anyone who'd like to get in touch with agmarket.net for more marketing information, how can they do that?
Best way would be to give us a call here in Normal, 1-800-779-1515, or you could go to our website at agmarket.net.
All right, Sam, thanks again for the analysis as always, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Riley.
That again was Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers closed through the market window at iowaagnet.com.
March corn down 13.5 at 464 3/4. March soybeans down 1 3/4 at 1022 3/4. March soybean meal down 250 at 290.90. March soybean oil down 22 cents at 44.75. Chicago wheat down 19 1/4 at 546 3/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 13 3/4 at 571 1/4. Minneapolis spring wheat down 12.5 at 587 even. March oats down 2 even at 360 1/4. On the Merc, April live cattle up $1.50 at 196.12. March feeders up 207 at 276.45. April lean hogs down 392, almost limit down at 84.37. April pork cutout down $1.17 at 96.80. March Class 3 milk up 12 cents at 18.94.
And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. That also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential. You can find those at your favorite podcasting service at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean, or once again on our website under the podcast tab at iowaagnet.com. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Dustin Huffman, Andy Peterson, and Mark Magnuson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.